Hello and welcome. My name is Zafar Iqbal and you're watching the Mojo Story. A political storm has erupted in Jammu and Kashmir after the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Electoral Officer Hridesh Kumar in a press conference in Jammu said that after the abrogation of Article 370, anybody living ordinarily in Jammu and Kashmir can register as a voter and cast the vote in the upcoming assembly elections. The Chief Electoral Officer said 25 lakh new voters are likely to be registered in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, the statement has obviously drawn a sharp response from regional parties, the PDP and the National Conference. They've hit out at the BJP, terming it as a ploy for disempowering the people of Jammu and Kashmir and for turning the electoral results in its favor. Before we go to our panelists, if we can play that soundbite.
काफ़ी ऐसे लोग हैं जो पहले असेंबली में वोटर नहीं होते थे, लेकिन अब उनका नाम वोटर लिस्ट में आ सकता है। तो एक वो भी बड़ी तादाद में लोग अब आ सकते हैं अपना वोट दर्ज कराने के लिए। उसके लिए सिंपल है, जो रूल है पूरे कंट्री में, रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ पीपल्स एक्ट में रूल है कि पर्सन शुड बी ऑर्डिनरीली रिजाइडिंग इन द यूटी। जहाँ पे भी वो वोट बनवाना चाहता है वो वहाँ पे ऑर्डिनरीली रिजाइड करना चाहिए। ऑर्डिनरीली रिजाइड करने का जो डिसीजन है वो ईआरओ को लेना है, जो वहाँ इलेक्टोरल रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑफिसर है या एईआरओज हैं कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसीज में, वो इस बात को देखेंगे कि भाई ये यहाँ पे ऑर्डिनरीली रहता है, यहाँ पे इसकी नौकरी हो सकती है, वहाँ पे वो एजुकेशनल पर्पज के लिए भी रह सकता है, लेबर पर्पज के लिए भी रह सकता है, बिजनेस पर्पज के लिए भी रह सकता है, यानी परमानेंट रेजिडेंट होने की आवश्यकता अब नहीं है। तो ऐसे बहुत सारे वोट अब वोटर लिस्ट में ऐड होंगे। एक और जो नई चीज है, जो सर्विस वोटर्स है, हमारे यहाँ के काफी लोग दूसरे स्टेट्स में काम करते हैं, तो वो उनको ऑप्शन पहले भी था, अब भी है, दे कैन रजिस्टर देमसेल्व्स एज सर्विस वोटर, यानी उनका नाम वोटर लिस्ट में एज सर्विस वोटर दर्ज हो जाएगा और वो जहां भी पोस्टिंग है उनकी, चाहे वो आर्म फोर्सेज में है, पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेज में है, आर्मी में है, वो वहीं से अपना पोस्टल बैलेट दर्ज कर सकते हैं जब भी इलेक्शन होता है। ऐसे ही काफी लोग देश के दूसरे हिस्सों से भी यहाँ पोस्टेड हैं, तो उनको भी एक ऑप्शन है, अगर वो पीस स्टेशन में पोस्टेड है तो वो यहाँ का भी वोट अपना बना सकते हैं। फॉर एग्जाम्पल जम्मू में पीस स्टेशन है, अगर यहाँ किसी की पोस्टिंग है बाहर का आर्मी या आर्म फोर्सेज में, अगर वो ऑप्शन रखता है कि मुझे यहाँ वोट बनवाना है तो वो भी यहाँ का वोटर हो सकता है। तो ये सारी चेंजेज इस बार हैं, इसलिए ये बड़ा चैलेंजिंग काम है। हमारी कोशिश ये है कि जब हम 25 नवंबर को फाइनल पब्लिकेशन करेंगे इलेक्टोरल रोल का, 2-3 चीजें उसमें ध्यान में रखी जाएंगी। एक तो जो एलिजिबल है सबके वोट उसमें आ जाएं, एरर फ्री इलेक्टोरल रोल हो, सबका फोटो इलेक्टोरल रोल में हो, सबका आधार नंबर उसमें दर्ज हो, तो एक ऐसी इलेक्टोरल रोल हो जो जिसमें कोई एरर ना हो।
Let's now introduce our panel today. We are joined by Zafar Chaudhary, who's a journalist and an analyst based in Jammu. He actually is from the Dispatch. We are also joined by Major General Dhruv Katoch, who is from the India Foundation, a defense expert. From the BJP, we are joined by S Pathania, who joins us from Jammu, and from the National Conference, we're joined by Tanweer, Sadiq. Before we go to representatives of political parties, I want to go cut across to Zafar Chaudhary. Zafar Saab, you heard that soundbite. We played that in its entirety because it's very significant what the Chief Electoral Officer has said. He talks about labor, about service people, he talks about Aadhaar card, he touches upon many things. Is it something that's exceptional for Jammu and Kashmir, or the same rules apply everywhere across the country?
No, I think it's very difficult to imagine that a similar rule applies everywhere in the country. What's happening over past 2-3 years, whatever new happens here, that has a justification in the roots of, the constitutional changes, that such and such thing did not happen before August 5, 2019, and now this has started happening now. But in case of, registering yourself as a voter, that is an entirely different thing. We have a new population demographic over the last 3 years on the basis of new domiciles. So the government of India made conditions very clear that who is eligible, who qualifies to be a new domicile of Jammu and Kashmir. So 15 years is a bar that those who have been staying here for the last 15 years. What the chief election officer of Jammu and Kashmir has said, he has not specified any time period that since how long somebody is staying here. So that number could be really very significant. That could be really very high. And there is no determinate method that how to adjust those people into different constituencies. We recently had a delimitation exercise concluded, and delimitation, this commission is, an authority which is mandated to package the population sets in certain constituencies. So that is obviously on the basis of 2011 census, and then whosoever has got a bona fide residentship of Jammu and Kashmir by way of obtaining domicile certificate. What the chief electoral officer is saying that if there are laborers, they did not take the domicile certificate because they don't have a residentship in Jammu and Kashmir. They think of working here and then going back. The number could be in lakhs because there are a lot of infrastructure, rail projects, highway projects going on in Jammu and Kashmir. So there is something that he has also mentioned about the armed forces, the peace stations. The first is that there is hardly any peace station in Jammu and Kashmir. But normally what happens that the armed forces, they get registered as voters, but they cast their votes in the original constituencies they belong to. So chief electoral officer has left a lot of things unexplained, which are very, very difficult to understand. Since this morning, I have approached him a couple of times with 5 questions, which would have made things a little more understandable. He has not responded to that. Now, what happens that in a new constituency that's emerging, even a political leader such as our friend Mr. Pathania would not be able to make an assessment of the demographic of the electoral demographics, because once
that's a very important point, and we will want Pathania Saab to respond. How does a representative of a constituency get a understanding of the composition of the constituency? It is not clear. The election officer, the chief election officer, has not given clarity. But BJP on the other side says that this is something that brings Jammu and Kashmir at par with the rest of the country. But don't you think there should be clarity even for the representatives of the constituency and for the people? It's not a small number. It's a number runs in lakhs. It's a significant chunk of population.
See, Zafar, I think in Jammu and Kashmir we are given to the practice of just seeing shades within shades. I have seen the statement of Umar Abdullah. He was the first one to react. I've seen the video transcript of Mehbooba Mufti, then Muhammad Yusuf Taregani, and then one more, the erstwhile chairman of Jammu and Kashmir National Panthers Party also have gone through all those things. But with due respect and responsibility to all the very, very senior leaders, all the statements, this is only, we could say, a heap of euphemisms, a heap of, we could say, invectives, but nothing substantial in it. It is very sweet and very simple. After 5th of August 2019, nothing to understand. We did not even require an announcement by a chief electoral officer of Jammu and Kashmir. Post 5th of August 2019, all the central laws, as they are applicable to the rest of the country, they, of their own, in law we use the language mutatis mutandis. They apply to any part, as they apply in any area of Jammu, in any of the area of the India, they apply in UT of Jammu and Kashmir also. So there is a
very clarified. He says that ordinarily living in JNK. Suppose Pathania Saab, you or me are living ordinarily living in
Sir, please allow me to elaborate just for a second, sir. Just, I'll answer your query, sir. Now, what is the system which is in place in the rest of the country? Let us assume a situation. I had conducted a case before the Supreme Court in a similar matter, though it was Bihar versus the state administration. Let us assume a central government officer at the age of 20. He's a married man. He, along with his wife, they get posted to, let us suppose, a central government officer of Jammu and Kashmir. Let us suppose a Jammu and Kashmir Jawan gets posted in Bihar. Till 60, he will be in Bihar. For 40 long years. Only that Jawan, that even belt forces, not even civil employees get that benefit. For 40 years, he will enjoy the drinking water facilities, the roads facilities of that area, but he has no power, no capacity, we could say no potential to elect a leader of his own choice. So this is a system which is
essentially
this is what RPA says, sir. So this is what RPA says. This is not sir, not Hridesh, no Zafar Saab. Hridesh Kumar Saab doesn't say. You don't live. Mr. Hridesh Kumar Saab has no legal authority to say. This is what RPA says. Every
No,
person
no.
who is 18 years of age and is ordinarily residing in a particular area. Very simple. He's no. This is what you're asking me. The parameter of ordinarily residing has to be decided by the ERO of that particular area on the basis of the nature of the service,
So
on the basis of the
essentially,
nature of vocation pursued by.
essentially, in nutshell, you mean to say what applies to the rest of the country will apply to
That's it.
J&K. That's right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Tanveer
Nothing more,
Sadiq, if
nothing
that
less.
is
Very simple. Very
if
simple.
that is the case, then why are
That's
there
it.
concerns? Why, Tanveer Sadiq, why are there
There
concerns raised
need not to be a
by
fuss over it, sir.
parties like the National Conference? You gave a press conference today. We saw a press conference by Mehbooba Mufti today. The representative of the BJP says that what will apply to the rest of the country will apply to J&K. That is in nutshell what it is. There is no exception. If you can unmute Tanveer sir.
Zafar, I don't know what part of Zafar Chaudhary Saab's statement did not the BJP spokesperson understand. He was very clear, and I don't think we need to elaborate much on that. He made it very clear what the domicile law was, and suddenly when the chief electoral officer talks about ordinary citizen, that means, I mean, what stops? I mean, I have just one quick question. The apprehension is that
Ordinarily resident, sir. Sorry to interrupt. Ordinarily residing. The language is the language of the laws. Ordinarily residing, sir.
Since the CEO did not clarify, at least he should sit in his place and at least elaborate what that means. My whole point is that what stops, or let's say there are so many states, BJP ruled state, what stops them from getting thousands of their workers to Kashmir ordinarily, as he says, sit here for a few months, get registered, vote, go back, deregister and go back to their states. Tell me, where does the CEO define what an ordinary citizen is? Number two, very important, when you talked about the service people, you know, Jammu and Kashmir is under AFSPA. That means the state is declared as a disturbed area act. It comes under that. There is no peace station. So how can a servicemen vote for that? I mean, these are some of the pertinent questions that everybody is asking in Jammu and Kashmir. What is the need? I mean, when you define businessman, what does that mean? Have you specified the duration? I can go to my EO and say, look here, I've been doing business here for so many times. I don't have documents, but I have an Aadhaar card because I live in Maharashtra. Am I eligible for voting? So these are some of the pertinent questions that everybody is asking. Where the people should have been given preference, where the center should have been more, particular about Jammu and Kashmir people coming out to vote. They are importing people to vote here. Is this what the democracy are we talking about here?
But Major General Dhruv Katoch, coming to you, obviously J&K is facing multiple challenges. There is challenge of militancy. We know for a fact that a Kashmiri Pandit was killed day before yesterday. They have not gone back to their duties. Kashmir, not even scheduled caste employees of Jammu, the Dogras, they've stopped going to their duties. So those are the real challenges on the ground. Don't you think issues like this, when they come, statements like this, complicate the situation further and change the focus from something which is more important on the ground to an entirely different thing?
Thank you, Zafar. You know, the first point I want to say is it is not do this or that. We can do multiple things at the same time. So while the security situation can be handled by the security personnel and by others, at the same time, other issues can always also be handled. We do not say, okay, we will only do the election process once the security situation is handled. I don't think that is the way to look at it. That is point one. So as far as the security situation is concerned, it is not going to be impacted by what is happening on the ground as far as the electoral process is concerned. So there will be multiple initiatives of the government and of the local people which are going to take place. And I think they will be operating independent of each other. I don't personally see any problem in that. This is one. Number two, as far as the question of voting is concerned, I want to make a few things, my personal observations. I'm not a legal person, but I want to tell you what has happened on the ground. Now, I've been living in Gurgaon for a few years. I've got my house here, but I am actually a resident of Himachal. In the last election, my wife voted from here. I voted from Himachal. She couldn't move. So her voting was changed from Himachal to this place. I continue to vote from there. I have one vote. Now, we haven't spent here 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. We've just been here a few years, but she could vote from here. The people in the armed forces, they have the liberty to either send a postal ballot, that is option one, or they can vote from where they are. This is applicable across the country. So I really don't see the problem why anybody should be upset that the same rule which is being
No,
applied, say,
Dhruv Katoch, the problem comes in when we talk about figures. 25 lakh new voters will be enrolled. That's a huge
no,
figure.
out of this 25 lakhs, there are also the West Pakistani displaced refugees, right? How many of them are there? I think it was a matter of a crying shame that the regional local parties disregarded the constitution. I mean, they have abused human rights since 1947 by denying them the vote. They could vote for the national elections. They could not vote for the local elections. Could you imagine a bigger shame than this?
So you mean to say all those people who didn't have the right to vote in the state elections up till now will also be included, and that makes
Yes,
it that
they are also part of that number.
Pathania Sahab, you want to come in?
Sir, I think Mr. Hridesh Kumar's statement is self-explanatory. As per the records which are available with the Jammu and Kashmir government, there are 98 lakh voters who are people who are above 18 years, and out of these 98, it's only 76 lakh voters, 18 plus voters have been registered as voters. Now, after 1st of January 2019, this is an electoral revision which has been done after a period of 3 years. So it is reasonably affected that all the 22 lakhs, this gap between this plus 18 voters, they have to be registered. And now the benchmark is 1st of October, now 1st of January. 1st of October 2022 is the benchmark. One part. And secondly, as my learned friend Jalan Sahab was saying, that all Valmikis, all daughters married outside Jammu and Kashmir, and all West Pakistan refugees. So reasonably, it stands around. It's just a speculation. Around 25 lakhs people can register. This is not a we could say hard and fast a letter from the we could say from some divine man that he's saying that 25 people are going to be registered. This is very simple. Please don't smell skepticism. My respectful submission to each and everybody. We should talk reason. We should talk rational. We should not we could say box in the air. We shouldn't do boxing in the air. That's very simple.
Zafar Sahab, Pathania Sahab saying that it is all those people who have reached that age but who have not registered themselves
Registered as voters. Very simple.
When they will register themselves, then we will see such a number. Do you think that is the case? And did you get answers to the question that you put to the Chief Election Commissioner?
No, absolutely not. You see, we are all educated, conscious, and aware enough to understand that after 5th of August 2019, all Indian laws are applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. It will be very naive to oppose to any such law which was not applicable before and that's being applied now. There is no point in opposing that. Valmikis, West Pakistani refugees, of course, they are now eligible to be able to vote here. That's not a problem. The chief electoral officer does not give out an eligibility criteria to determine the ordinarily residing people in Jammu and Kashmir. So there are a number of people. There are several 100,000 of people who have been ordinarily residing here. They've been working on the power projects, on the railway lines, on the construction work, and a number of other places who could register themselves as voters. There is a genuine concern. Everyone wants to understand. I respect and appreciate Mr. Pathania's position as a member of the BJP who has to defend every decision of the government wherever and whenever that is coming. I must tell you very honestly, since yesterday afternoon till this time, the concerns, as I find, are more profound in Jammu region than in Kashmir. Every political leader who may not be coming on the camera belonging to BJP, Congress, or every other party in Jammu region is more concerned because that these ordinarily residing people are far more in number in Jammu region than in Kashmir Valley. So the electoral demography is likely to be impacted here than in Kashmir in any manner. So there are a lot of concerns here. So it's just about a small clarification that what are you talking about? That domicile is not a criteria? Are you talking about 6 months as an ordinary resident, a year, 2 years, 5 years? That would be helpful. More than me, that would be helpful. People like Mr. who has to make a calculation. You know what happens? Just a little thing. When elections start, people like Mr. Pathania who have to contest elections, they find out the voter list and they make an analysis on the basis of the voter list, whether the people, how to reach them, what is their electoral demography, social demographic, etc., so that they are able to understand. So in this case, there is a complete, there is a complete confusion, uncertainty, No one understands that what is going to be the exact number of voters in a particular constituency and who are those people going to be.
Tanveer, Sadiq, we know that National Conference President Farooq Abdullah has now called the leaders for a meeting to discuss how to deal with this situation, what should be the way forward as far as parties are concerned. What, according to you, should be a strategy to counter those concerns which you feel they are there after this announcement was made?
I mean, there are genuine concerns, like Zafar Saab just said, and these are genuine concerns. Nobody is talking about anti-national, and nobody is going on hyper-nationalism here. I mean, I have friends in Jammu from the BJP. I spoke to them. They were concerned about people coming from Punjab. What stops them from getting, enrolled in the electoral roll? I mean, there are close to around 7-8 lakhs workers in Kothua, Samba, all this belt. I mean, how do you stop that from them getting enrolled in the electoral? See, the point is nobody is against anybody voting. The fact is that there should be some genuineness in this. If what we demanded today was clarity, if there is no clarity in what exactly is an ordinary citizen or an ordinary voter, how do you expect us to react then? I mean, this is a genuine react. Not everything is India, Pakistan, not everything is anti-national or nationalism. There are certain issues, like I said, if there are these certain issues are applied in the rest of country, fine. I mean, we'll agree to it. But these are some of the issues which I've never seen an electoral officer coming out from Punjab or Maharashtra saying that, anybody can come and vote. At least he gives you the criteria for voting. I hope the criteria is the same. The reason we're discussing it here is because it was not clear. It is still not clear, and none from the Election Commission has come out and explained what exactly is it. And that is the reason, coming to your question, that is the reason all the political parties have come together. At least this is all genuine. This is democratically, everybody is talking about why this sudden change in Jammu and Kashmir. So these are, and like General Saab said, nobody is against. I mean, it's local governance. I or Pathania Saab or any of us will contest elections from the state. How can somebody from outside vote for a local governance? That is the whole crux of the issue.
Zafar Saab has to go, but Zafar Saab, delimitation commission, when that was talked about in the past, and now perhaps this is going to be a bigger issue for the political parties in the upcoming election. Don't you think so? It's already brought together the regional parties, and they said that they are again talking to those who may not be on the same page, but about this particular issue they say it's very important.
You see, as a journalist, we have friends in almost every political party. All those, a number of senior BJP leaders who have not come on the camera, they will say a different thing on the camera. I've spoken to them. They have genuine concerns. After 2019, the new domicile, that threw up a new demographic. So people were just trying to understand that what are they going to get in their constituencies. And then packaging of the population in the new, maps of the constituencies, that was another challenge. And now this new thing is that you have absolutely no idea that how many ordinary residents, they are residing in your particular constituency. This is going to be a more profound problem in Jammu, Samba and Katoch, where people have concern. They're talking about that. So it's just about a clarity that is there a bar of 2 years, 5 years, or whatever, so that you are able to understand.
Right.
So the way do you go and talk to people? After all, it's about contesting elections tomorrow.
Pathania sir, why is it so difficult to put out a clarity whether a domicile is the criteria, whether there are a few years of living? Jammu Kashmir is flooded with people from other parts of the country.
Before I leave, just one quick thing.
Yes, sir.
I think after this show is over, Pathania sir should also make a call to Hridesh Kumar Singh and ask him, yaar, ye batao, kitna 2 saal, 5 saal, kitna, so that I can also create,
with great respect to you, we had been going to our school days and studying and going through your write-ups on current issues, sir. I have great respect for you. But my very, very humble submission, sir, that little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Please go through. There are a set of instructions to govern and to inform. And to, that's what I'm telling. That's what I'm telling. The entire General Saab says that her family has been allowed a vote, though they belong to Himachal Pradesh. They have been allowed a vote in Noida, in Delhi. In Delhi, sorry, they are saying. So there are a set of instructions.
In my
there are
wife voted from Gurgaon. I voted from
yes, just
Himachal,
Gurgaon. Yes, sorry. Your wife
Haryana.
voted from Gurgaon. So there are a set of instructions, a detailed set of instructions to guide an ARO while deciding the word ordinarily resident, sir. This is the system which is in place, and I go a step further, sir. Representation of People's Act was applicable to Jammu and Kashmir before 5th of August 2019 also, and I'm surprised that how this ordinarily resident criteria was not made applicable to this erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir and now the UT of Jammu and Kashmir. Mr. Hridesh Kumar Singh has not, we could say, blown rabbits out of his hat and said something and said the, we would say, Tavi and the Jhelum on fire. Nothing of this sort, sir. This is very sweet and very simple. The logic behind. I'm referring to a case law. I'm referring to a case law. Let us suppose General Saab, he's a resident of Himachal and her wife puts up at Gurgaon.
Yeah.
They have been putting up at Gurgaon since 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. They enjoy the facilities there. Why? They are debarred. But the watchword remains, nobody can have two votes at one time. If somebody has a vote at Himachal, she needs to surrender that vote at Himachal, and then she needs to have another vote in Gurgaon. That's the condition, sir.
General Dhruv Katoch, if it was so simple, then we would not see such a sharp reaction from the regional parties. The fact that Tanweer Sadiq says that somebody, suppose, registers himself and then after a few months just deregisters and registers elsewhere, there should be some sort of a clarity given what exactly it is, so that those doubts, those concerns are cleared. What is the big deal? Why is it keeping it ambiguous for people to draw their own conclusions?
Very frankly, I think if you give more clarity to this, there should be no harm, and that should be done. So as this issue has arisen, I hope it is done in the days to come. But the point is very simple. As Mr. Pathania said, we have one vote only. So when to give a practical example, when my wife voted from here, she had a problem in traveling. I drive from Gurgaon to Himachal to vote. It's a 12 hours drive, but she couldn't do that. So she surrendered her card and she got a new voter's card. Now you can't keep doing that every year. It's not, it is not something that you can say, I surrender my card here, next year I get another one, surrender it. It doesn't work that way. You've done it, okay, now it's over, right? If after 10 years or 15 years there's a change in situation, you can do it again. But it is not something which people, I'll vote here, surrender my card, go to the next state, vote there, surrender my card. It doesn't work that way.
So the point that we were saying, why people seem to show concerns, is that suppose we go to Delhi every year for a few months, and then tomorrow we say we are ordinarily living in Delhi, we can vote in Delhi. Tanveer Sadiq, do you think those are the concerns that people have? There is no clarity.
May I just give one? For this Delhi thing, just 1 minute, sir. 1 minute. For the Delhi thing, if I'm a resident of, say, Bihar and I'm ordinarily staying in Delhi, you see, I can't say I will vote in Bihar and vote in Delhi. You surrender one. Make up your mind. That's the whole point.
Okay.
Just a one-liner, sir. Just a one-liner.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a one-liner, sir. I am born and bred up in Jammu and Kashmir. What stops me to surrender my vote in Jammu and Kashmir and ordinarily reside at, we could say, Kerala, and vote for a candidate of my own choice at Kerala? That's what. Okay. And the vice versa. What stops a man from Kerala to ordinarily reside in Jammu and Kashmir and vote for a candidate of his own choice in Jammu? That's very simple.
Last word to you, Tanveer Sadiq.
Please.
After what?
When you could have a state like Maharashtra change in 24 hours from one government to another, if this is a prestige issue for BJP, what stops them from bringing thousands of people from other parts of the state to Jammu and Kashmir, get them registered and taken back? Sir, I'm not talking about General Saab or any of us. We understand it's one vote. I won't go to Jamtara and see if Sanjay or Vijay or Abdul has got his stuck off his name from the electoral list. Please, these are some practical issues. If Jammu and Kashmir is an important state, a lot of people, and of course BJP, it's a prestige issue for them. It's not a big deal from getting people from across the country and getting them enrolled here. So this is what the concern is. If there is clarity from the CEO, we have no problem. But because of the lack of clarity, all these issues will come up.
Right. I think there is no problem in that. If there is a clarity that will, all those who have concerns, that will clear their doubts. But it's important to have that clarity when there are statements made where people draw their own conclusions. Obviously, that leads to different sets of opinions. So I think it's time to have that clarity so that everybody knows what the real situation is. That brings us to the end of our show. Thanks to all our panelists for joining us today. That's all we have in today's show. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.